Before we begin this week's episode, we want to give a big thank you to our newest patron, Aaron. Welcome to the patron community. We're excited to have you. And that makes 25.
Woo!
Woo!
Welcome, Aaron.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we will be giving away our prizes. We're going to do a special video for our patrons as a thank you and give away our merch. We appreciate it, guys. If you're interested in seeing what being a patron is all about, there's a link in the description. I'm Nurse Jessica Seitz, along with Nurse Erica. We're Nurses Uncorked, the podcast that takes nursing facts with nursing comedy and makes a little cocktail out of it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nurses Uncorked. It's Nurse Erica alongside me and Nurse Jessica back again. And on today's episode, we have a really important topic to discuss that I'm sure has affected many listeners, many healthcare workers. We're going to be, and I want to put a trigger warning out there before we really dive into this episode. We're going to be talking about violence, especially physical violence in healthcare. We have a very brave nurse today, strong nurse joining us today, Natasha Poirier. I hope I said that correctly. That is going to be sharing her journey and her story of what happened to her related to this topic. So first, I want to say thank you for joining Nurses Uncorked. Natasha, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being willing to talk about a difficult subject. We appreciate it.
I just wanted to tell you, Nurse Jessica and Erica, that I know it took you a long time to try to track me down, but only a nurse can do that.
I was relentless. Yes, but thank you for joining us. Welcome. We're so happy you're here today.
Thank you.
So, Natasha, I'm going to kind of give a little background on Natasha, and if I say anything wrong, Natasha, please correct me. But Natasha Poirier is a registered nurse in Canada. She's had a long, very diverse career, which includes psychiatric nursing, correctional nursing, and also nursing management. Natasha is on this show to share her story because 5 years ago, Natasha herself was a victim of a brutal attack at work by a patient's spouse, which left her, unfortunately, with permanent injuries. What followed was a high-profile case that captured the nation's attention, sparking community outcry, media interest, and nationwide demonstrations. In the aftermath, Natasha wrote a book about her ordeal that I myself have and Erica have right here that we've read, titled Unsure, Bearing Witness to Justice. This is more than a book or a story. It's a revelation of the pervasive issues of workplace violence that is happening every day. Throughout it all, Natasha aims to ignite a conversation transcending the silence around violence against healthcare workers and a message of nurses needing to stay united, because if we are all together, we can make a difference and hopefully promote some change. Does that?
Absolutely.
Anything you want to add, Natasha, that I may have left out about your background before we dive into it?
I don't know. Did you mention my long history of mental health background, especially with the Veterans Affairs of Canada? Like they were my veterans.
Yeah. It was psychiatric nursing.
Yeah, we all hold a special place in our heart for veterans. And I could tell from reading your book that was something very special to you and very important for you to try to get back to. So we're going to dive into all of that. But yes, thank you for highlighting that for sure.
Thank you so much for being here. To the extent that you are comfortable, can you take us back to that day in March of 2019? You were a nurse manager working in a hospital. And on that day, you were in your office working when the husband of a patient that was on your unit came to your office. Can you tell us a little bit about what occurred?
Yes, let me bring you back a few minutes before that.
Okay.
It was around 1:45, and my clinical resource nurse and me usually have coffee at that time every single day. So I went and got us coffee. I dropped it off in his office, but to my wonderful surprise, he was training staff. He was doing a staff training session in his office. Oh, I was happier than ever. So I gave the coffee, I closed the door, I went in my office, and I thought, oh, now I have just received the approval and I can actually buy them a lift that has all these feature fancy features on it, including like a place where you can weigh the patient so you don't have to do two things. It's all in one, so it save time. So this is it was an exciting afternoon for me. But at 2:00, I was sitting in my office. The office is about 10 to 15 feet from the nursing station. And I saw this man that I have never seen in my life, kind of poking his head through my door and asking, "Are you the head nurse?" Well, once upon a time, we used to call it the head nurse, but not anymore. I mean, it's kind of, it's nurse manager now.
Right.
But anyway, that was okay. I said, "Yes, I am." And he came over to my office, like my office, and he wanted to have a discussion. And I asked him, "Oh, would you please like to have a seat?" Like I had a seat in my office. And he did. He sat down.
Okay.
And he started talking about his wife. But I just didn't know who the patient was. So I had to turn around, pick up my senses, where it's described like every room, which patients in every room, how old are they, who's the physician,
Right.
what's their condition. So this is what I needed to kind of put my head in gear to see which person he was talking about. And once I did, I said, "Oh yes, I found her here. She's right here. Yes, continue on." And he got up and he leaned over and he said, "You have 3 seconds to decide to change her rooms."
Wow.
And he pulled me from my chair with my hair. Then he continued with the assault with my arm, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I couldn't release it. That man was as strong as an elephant.
Oh my
I
gosh.
swear to God, he was so strong. And then he proceeded with my fingers, one at a time, twisting them backwards, giving them back to me. The other one, twisting it backwards, giving it back to me. Twisting the other one, giving it backwards. So then after that, he took me and he started punching me on my left temple over and over and over and over again. And as this was happening, I was falling in and out of consciousness.
Oh my gosh.
In and out of consciousness. I was, seeing feet walking by my office. I was seeing bells ringing. Then
was your door
Teresa
shut,
came.
Natasha? Was the door shut in your office at this point?
No, half. I never shut my door closed. It was always like half or fully open. Just so the staff knew that they were welcome at any time. If you close your door, they think like she's busy. She doesn't. So I just wanted them to feel like I'm always there.
Right.
But so anyways, Teresa, from what I could see from the civil trial documents, her testimony said that, after a while and seeing like abnormal movements and screaming in French, she thought she'd go check it out. And what she saw was him continuing to bang my head. And she was screaming, "Stop, let her go. Stop, let her go." So he let me go by holding on to my shoulder while he was like violently squeezing and pushing her arm He
Oh
let
my
her
gosh.
go, and then he started attacking me again.
Oh
Now
my
this
gosh.
time it
Oh,
was my head again. This time there was 2 big punches on my nose. There was blood. I mean, and it wasn't stopping. Finally, my clinical resource nurse must have clued in, because the man took me like by the 2 shoulders and violently threw me against the wall, and the whole wall shook.
Mm.
Taking off the you know what, you plug in your things, your computers, like all the elements were broken off the wall. And then he did it a second time, and I thought, oh, surely someone's gonna come. And then by that time I was on my hands and knees trying to protect my head. And then he came in, he took the man and pinned him against the wall, and he said, stop it, stop. And then he said, call the code white. We have a code white at the hospital for usually for patients that get aggressive and things like that.
Right.
And it's not a team of security or anything. It's you know, like you've got nurses in there, you've got you know, they're not, it's what we had at the time.
Right.
But they arrived too late. Like the whole incident was gone. But they were all at my door looking at me. And I was so traumatized. Like, no, first of all, I just wanted to be left alone so I could write my workman's comp report. Because it was an injury at work. You need to do a workman's comp report. You cannot go home, get injured, and not fill that report.
Oh
You
my
won't
gosh.
be covered. It's law. It's the way it's supposed to do, you know. So people just would leave. And by this time, I really wanted to do my reports. I said, everybody leave. Except 2 of my nurses. I permitted them to stay with me if they wanted. And they did. One of them did. And my face was covered in blood, and she took the blood off. All my paperwork was blood, and I couldn't believe it. Like my nice paperwork that I had been working on is full of blood. She put that aside so I wouldn't be focusing on everything that was happening. But before I could write my report, the head of security came to my office and asked me, like, what would you like to do now? And I said, now I would like the RCMP to be called. And he said, what? Are you sure?
And what is the RCMP? I think that's a Canada thing.
Yeah, a regional, it's a police force, a Canadian police force.
Okay.
And I had to swear that, yes, I was sure. But to back up, my nurse took out that madman in there at 2:11. And at 2:14, the head of security was at my office. And at 2:24, the RCMP was at the hospital.
The incident started approximately what time was it, Natasha?
Well, he was in my office at 2:10.
Okay.
So we must have talked not a long time, because, like I'm saying, I was just reviewing quickly my information, and now listening to the rest of the story was what I thought was going to happen. But he just immediately told me I had 3 seconds. And when I didn't make that decision, of course, in 3 seconds, I mean, how shocked would I be? He started the attack immediately. And the attack didn't stop till 2:11. And I know that, you know, I've been questioned so much on this, the time, and how do you know? And it's not true. And okay, first of all, I'm a nurse.
We watch the time. Yeah.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't document without knowing the time. You can't move without knowing the time constantly. And I've been doing this my whole career, looking at the time. It was a natural habit for me.
Right. So you knew what the time was, and there was no question about that. So were you down on the floor when this was happening? He pulled you out of your chair, or were you still kind of like in the chair? That part I was trying to understand.
I was pulled out of the chair, and then the attack on my arm and fingers and my hands started.
Oh my
Then he
gosh.
pulled me like more towards the middle of the room so he could assault me a bit better.
Oh,
Like
it
God.
sounds
more
like
room to kind of continue his assault.
I mean, it almost sounds like he went in there with the intent, like almost knowing,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, it doesn't, I don't think it would have mattered what you would have said or if you
Right.
had responded within 3 seconds. I think that, I mean, just from hearing it, like he has some deep seated aggression and anger, and
Oh,
that he was already mad just walking in the door, you know, like that is, it's
Well,
awful.
during the criminal trial, I was there most of it by myself because COVID hit, so nobody could go in. I was the only one that could. But I reviewed the criminal trial documents, and apparently the judge said he had a long history of conflicts with
Yeah.
healthcare staff. And so
he
obviously this
thought
wasn't
that he knew more, right, than the medical
by
professionals.
By Googling conditions. Can you imagine? Who Googles medical conditions? This is why we have
all the patients and family members. WebMD.
Too many.
No more Googling conditions.
Please stop.
Yeah.
Public service announcement. Don't do that, people.
Don't do that. Yeah. So basically he had a wife that was chronically ill that he had been the primary caretaker of for many, many, many years. And during the trial, the judge did say something to the effect of, it's clear from all of his past behavior that he has a pattern of thinking that he knows more than all of the medical professionals, right?
Right, because he himself was telling the judge all the problems he was having with healthcare and just continuing on, and just so the story came out.
You poor thing, and you probably had
terrible.
no idea what was coming your way when he walked in that
No.
room. I
thought that basically if he wants a room change, like what are the reasons,
Right.
I didn't understand why he would want a room change, because she was right in front of the nursing station for closer observation, ordered by a family physician. Do you think I could override that, first of all, even if I could? He's a doctor. I'm a nurse. I have to go with family physicians and doctor's orders.
And the reason was
to that point.
It was for her to get better care. I mean, so that the nurses could listen out closer. So, I mean, it wasn't to harm her. If anything, it was to provide better care for her, which sadly he did not, for whatever reason, understand that or wasn't happy about it. Awful situation.
Terrifying.
To be. Yeah.
Terrifying, because it could have happened to any of my nurses, okay?
If you don't mind, Natasha, I'm going to discuss this attack led to many injuries. I'm going to go over some of those injuries, and if you want to elaborate on any, or if I'm missing anything, please let me know. Okay. So,
sure.
I obviously this is a difficult topic, and again, trigger warning for people that are listening to this episode. So, some of the injuries, many of which still affect you today, from what we understand. You ended up having a brain injury, a concussion, a neck injury, impaired vision, chronic nausea. You were forced to wear special prism glasses because of chronic nausea, light sensitivity. You also ended up with a deviated septum, breathing problems due to all of the blows that you had to your nose. Your hands were injured from the trauma that occurred to your fingers and holding your arm. PTSD, chronic pain syndrome, neurocognitive disorder with brain fog, major depressive disorder, and you've had to have multiple surgeries to overcome or attempt to overcome some of these things. You couldn't drive for a long period of time. Climbing stairs were difficult. And you were not able to return back to work for a long period of time as well. And it has taken you over 4 years to finally get long-term disability. We can talk about that more in a minute if you'd like. But is there anything that you want to add about these injuries, or something that I may have left out? Because it's a long list, and people, as hard as it is to hear, need to understand the severity of what can happen when somebody loses their temper like this and becomes physically violent.
No, I think you really hit the injuries bang on. I think you understood what happened there. The only thing, like with my nose, it's not even just that I had the deviated septum, but also my nose had shifted. My hood, so I needed a septoplasty too to fix that.
Wow. You poor thing. That is absolutely terrible. And the fact that you are still dealing with these injuries in some of the cases years later is
after
unacceptable.
Hearing all of that, the fact that you were sent home the same day,
from the ER,
extent of injuries. And I also want to say, what to me that just speaks to how nurses are, the fact that you wanted to get your documentation done before you were even taken to the hospital is actually, it's
such a nurse thing.
It is a nurse thing, but it's sad. To me, it's sad that the priority is not self-care. The priority that's drilled into our brain and into our heads is that it doesn't matter what's happened to us. It doesn't matter what we've gone through. It doesn't matter. We have to put everybody else first. And I'm sorry, but filling out the paperwork is putting the hospital first and not putting you first, because it's something that they deem as, I mean, if somebody had been shot by a gun and was bleeding out, do they need to do their workman's comp form prior to being carted off?
I don't know, because who's going to do it though? Like, who's going to do it for you?
It should be that they are bending over backwards to help make that happen. They should be coming to nurses or to healthcare workers in the hospital and piecing it together and having it filled out as it can be filled out. That should not be the priority. And sadly, that to me is part of all the multiple red flags, but it just goes to show that our priorities in healthcare are backwards, completely backwards. That's not to say fault. That's not fault to you, Natasha. That's just the way that we are trained. That's just
no. I know, and the way we were trained, like I did do a deep dive, like Erica does. I tried on the nursing history in here in Canada and in New Brunswick, and from what I can see, from the late 1800s, we were subservient. Like let's skip back, like 1995 when I graduated and everything. And once I started working at the hospital with the doctors, like before we started our shift, we listened to a report, and then we did the nurse's prayer, like every morning, to give us wisdom and everything. And then the next step was, oh, good morning, doctor. Do you still want 2 cream, 1 sugar in your coffee? Let me get that for you. What are your charts today? Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
What? You did that? Yes. How long ago?
Oh, my God. 96. And I did it for a long time.
Never. In my career. Never.
That's how we were raised.
It is how
nurses.
I started in 2000, and we weren't far off from that at that point. Like, you were still, the doctor would walk up, you give up your seat, you move off the computer, you log off immediately, you see the doctor, you run, you get their supplies ready, like, you take a back seat. It may not be the extent Natasha's for years before, but we were still, even then, I saw nurses catering, and a lot of the older nurses or more seasoned nurses were still doing like what Natasha was saying. Yeah, like they would cater and bow down to them.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like when I graduated, the hospital that I wanted to work at, did you guys have the nursing hat, white nursing hat?
Never. No, I wouldn't. I never wore that. I wouldn't even wear it for pictures at graduation. That to me is symbolic of the oppression of the profession. And I know a lot of people are like, it's the history, it's beautiful. And I get that. To me, it is a symbol of oppressing nurses and the profession. I don't
But
want anything to do with it.
We're talking 28 years ago, what my thoughts
Right.
were back then.
We're going to quickly take a moment to have a break and hear a word from our sponsors.
Have you guys checked out the Vivian Health app yet? It's an online marketplace for healthcare professionals. It offers pay transparency. It's used by employers, recruiters, and healthcare workers. It's like a one-stop shop for any healthcare workers that are out there looking for a job.
I will say it's one of the easiest apps I've ever used, the Vivian Health app. It's easy to download. You can organize your pay based on highest to lowest paying. I love the fact that it's for all healthcare workers, not just nurses. If you're looking for a one-stop shop, the Vivian Health app is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, no more juggling multiple job sites. It's all in one place. You can go to the link in the description of this podcast.
I said it last week and I'm going to say it again. As nurses, we need to continue supporting and lifting one another up, which is why I want to highlight again Stink Bomb Odor Blocker, which is a small company owned by an ER nurse, one of our own. So let's support and show this nurse some love. Tell them about Stink Bomb, Erica.
Yeah, it's a small female-owned, nurse-owned company. She created such a useful thing for healthcare workers. We're exposed to all these horrible smells every day, and she created this little easy-to-carry, convenient, it looks like a lip balm. You can put it in your pocket, but you just put a dab of it under your nose. It comes in numerous different scents. You can choose what you like best, and it covers up all the horrible odors, and no one knows that you're using it. And it's discreet. The patients don't know. They don't see you spraying air freshener or anything. It's really a great product.
My two favorites are coffee and evergreen. Evergreen puts me in the holiday spirit. Check out Stink Bomb Odor Blocker. The link is in the description of the podcast, and get 15% off by using Uncorked 15. Okay, we're back with Natasha. We're going to let Erica get into, I think, the next question that we have, right?
On the cover of your book, it says, "My voice was silenced, speaking the truth. Hear me now in search of justice." Was writing this book part of your recovery?
First of all, when I decided to release my story, it was last year, November 11th, Novembrance Day, the Day of the Veterans, which usually I would send them all a text, have a day. Not have a good day, just have a day. But that day I didn't have the stamina or the courage or anything to reach out to them. So what did I do? Instead, I made another call to a ghostwriting company, and I told them 3 things and that I wanted to write a book. They took me under their wing right away with a whole team. So this book was done because I have difficulties with writing and a bit of cognitive difficulties. This was the perfect way to do it. And they would write the story, I would review, and then it would be done by interview once a week.
Okay.
Once a week until it was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was like a kind of a therapeutic exposure exercise at the same time, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure that it was, like we were saying, a little bit therapeutic for you to just talk about it, like once a week. Like it's almost like a scheduled therapy session in a sense, but to be able to just kind of relive the story, talk about it, I'm sure that definitely had to have, it may not have been your intent per se, but I'm sure it was a combination of the two.
Yeah, it did. It did quite a lot. And, the intention at the beginning, it was to be my memoir, my nursing memoir. I was saying bye to my career. That was the whole point. But once I talked to my daughter, and, she really encouraged me to release the story, that it could be helpful, for other people and women and other injured workers that have been through unmanageable pain. So they kind of feel like they're not alone in this. Like I felt.
Absolutely. And sometimes you need that little bit of a nudge from a family member or somebody to just say, "Hey, you're doing the right thing."
But it
Do
was
you
quite a
think?
shock.
Go ahead.
It was quite a shock for the family because I didn't tell anybody. Like
Well,
I didn't tell anybody, and it was slowly and gently kind of published throughout Nursing Week without not too many people noticing what was happening, and it was just so nice.
You mean as far as writing and releasing the book you're talking about
Yeah, like for
okay.
releasing it on Nurses Week, that was a big thing for me. Like I needed that book out just because it's part of the story. Like for
Right.
Nurses Week, like I don't know. To me, it had a
timing.
lot of meaning.
Yeah, seems like it had almost like accurate timing,
Yeah.
Do you feel that nursing being female dominated profession, do you think it contributes to the epidemic of violence against nurses? Do you think that it's a higher percentage because it's female dominated, or do you think it's something else that attributes to it?
Well, I know that here in Canada, about 90% of all healthcare workers, including nurses, are female. So I can't help but to think that
Right.
this is part of it. And something needs to be done. And us women nurses, we need protection fiercely because we're the precious resources.
That's right. Yeah. When you and I spoke on the phone, you mentioned something, and I was so surprised because I had no idea. I've never heard of the Purple Ribbon campaign, which it sounds like is very similar to the Red and Black Ribbon campaign that I co-created here. Oh, you're wearing one. There it is.
Of
I
course
love it.
I'm wearing one.
I had no idea. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the meaning behind it in Canada?
So after I was assaulted, from what I can remember, 1 or 2 days ago, 2 days after, the Purple Ribbon campaign was launched by the nurses in New Brunswick. And it kind of silently went to other provinces, reached a national level. Everybody's like, oh, where we can get these purple pins, and we didn't know. So what they were buying is rolls and rolls of purple, just purple material at Fabricville. But they were running out, like stores were running out of the purple ribbon. But and that was to show, as a silent movement, nothing aggressive, nothing of that matter, to show the public, ourselves, our employers, that, nurses, we've had enough. Enough is enough.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it sounds so similar to the one that I did here. We started with fabric ribbon. We actually, my friend Matt and I purchased like the entire stock from one company, and then people started saying it was fraying. So I made an enamel pin version. Like it's just kind of evolved into a whole thing. But I had no idea that there was a purple ribbon version in Canada. I can't believe the coincidence. I love it.
However, the Purple Ribbon campaign, from what I could understand, a lot were wearing it. When I was going in the community, I was seeing people wear the ribbon campaign, the purple ribbon. It was quite encouraging. It was helping me with my recovery. But unfortunately, not everybody saw the importance of it. For some reason, people thought that it was just for Natasha Poirier. but they didn't understand the bigger cause,
Right.
unfortunately. So I'm hoping to bring it back somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a symbol of for everybody. It's a symbol of this is what's going on in healthcare, and we want to show you. We want to bring people to ask about it. We want people to talk about it, so it's not silenced.
Right.
So, absolutely. You've mentioned that with increasing occurrences of violence, nurses face at work, that we should receive hazard pay. I agree with that. But can you speak to that a little bit? What
Like
your
when I
feelings
said we
are on
should
that?
collectively declare it as a occupational hazard.
Yeah. Yes.
Sure. So in the lifetime of a nurse, we're going to see people dying. We're going to see people coming in that have been violently assaulted, and we have to treat them. We have been subject to forever to violence and threats and intimidation and all kinds of those tactics. So if you have a full career and all these things are happening, because they are, then of course, if something happens to you and you need some time off, it is due to the career, right? Just like, for example, RCMP. Right away, if RCMP, get assaulted or whatever, or prison guards, things like that, and they have to go on workman's compensation, well, it's assumed. The PTSD is already assumed. And this is what should happen with nurses also. So you don't have to prove the injury,
Right.
because our work is so difficult and dangerous in many ways. And it has been for a long time. I mean, I remember the first time I got assaulted by a female patient. I was 7 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And she kicked me in the stomach. So that was after 2 years of career. That was my first assault. And, there's been more, but I'm just trying to make a point that people can understand why I said that we should all declare it collectively as an occupational hazard, because it is.
I agree.
Not only that, now we have the working conditions. I mean, can you believe in working that conditions, like what that can do to a person and their mental health over a period of time, or even a period of short time? It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, and this one is going to resonate with nurses everywhere, because I think every nurse has been on the receiving end of this question at some point in their career, unfortunately. But in addition to you being shunned for asking that the police be called after the attack, later your employer asked you, what could you have done differently? And then ultimately, down the line, they ended up terminating you. I mean, it must have been such a slap in the face. Can you take us to that moment when they asked you that?
Yes, because, I was just wanting to keep them abreast of my progress and what was happening. So I was just telling them I've had to go last week to the hospital. These are the reasons why. And after I figured, and telling them I'm still taking a Tylenol every hour to control the pressure in my head. And
your poor liver. Goodness, Natasha.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
I know, but when you're desperate, you just kind of rope with it.
You do. Yep, you do what you got to do.
I know. Yes. So the next question was, what could you've done differently?
Ugh.
So insulting.
And that's what I really thought in my head. Well, geez, like I could have used my boxing skills and I could have knocked some sense into him. This is what I wanted to say.
Nothing. There's nothing you could have done differently. Nothing. That phrase needs to be outlawed across the board.
Yes, I agree.
The worst, most condescending thing that you can say to somebody that has gone through a traumatic experience. Now, I'm not talking about you might have flubbed up on a skill or something. I'm talking about somebody has gone through a horrible attack, whether it be physical, verbal, that you is not in any way, shape, or form your fault, and you're going to ask this person what they could have done differently.
Look, I'm telling you, after that question, I felt, well, I don't think I can explain the amount of disrespect that I felt.
Mm-hmm.
It just consumed me. And I was just trying to say, stay very, very calm. Very, very calm, even though my cognitive filter was gone. So I was saying anything and everything that was coming into my head for the first long time. Like, I never thought my cognitive filter would come back. Like, it was kind of fun in a way, because like everything
I was going to say, maybe that's what's wrong with me. I can't hold it in.
Erica has no cognitive
I can't
filter.
hold anything in. No, I'm not trying to make light of anything you've been through.
No, but I'm sure, like you were saying, as a manager, you probably, and as a nurse, we filter what we say to accommodate and keep people happy and pleased, and to have that, I don't know, in a sense, I would want to like utilize it to my advantage. Like I said, we're not trying to make light, but I'd be like, I also have Tourette syndrome now too.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That was my lack of a cognitive filter. I didn't mean it. I love it.
Yeah. I made periodically
I think
words.
that
I can't help it. Poor thing.
I think that every nurse, healthcare worker that is ever confronted with that question after an assault, what could you have done differently? I would like for every healthcare worker to reply with, what could you have done differently to provide safe working conditions? Or what could you have done differently to protect your staff more?
Well, kind of like I said in my book, but I just didn't want to go that far. But that's exactly what I meant. What could, my next question looking back should have been, what could have you done differently?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that segues into this question, because something possibly or should have been done differently in the past. So you learned that 3 years prior to your assault, he threatened to shoot a home health nurse in his home. Okay, you learned about this, but the incident was never reported, and the unwritten code of silence, let's sweep it under the rug, continued. But you later reached out to the home health nurse. She was still in fear of losing her job, poor thing, as everybody is, but allowed her story to be shared in your trial. She did allow that. How did it make you feel to know that possibly your assault could have been prevented if this event had been, brought to light more, and that it was reported instead of being brushed aside? How did that make you feel?
Well, how it made me feel at the time is that I couldn't understand it, because I just couldn't wrap my mind around it, how this is possible and everything. But as I was kind of reviewing my book and analyzing things a bit more deeper, and I realized that, oh my gosh, we're just like the RCMP. We're just like the veterans. We have a code of silence. That's why it happened. The code of silence. Now I get it. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the code of silence.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're scared to death to get fired or reprimanded or whatever else is going to happen.
Yeah, it's terrible.
And the higher ups want things hush hush. They don't want things to look bad. They don't want anybody to know about it. Let's act like everything is sunshine and rainbows.
But by doing that, it's putting our safety more in jeopardy. Like, without
absolutely
letting the public know what is going on in our hospitals at the moment.
Yeah,
okay,
you're right.
And encouraging and putting better mechanisms to protect their staff, nothing is going to change. But what we can do to change it, okay, is silently.
The purple ribbon. Yeah.
Not silently, pin that on your name tag.
Yeah,
And work and be proud.
that's right.
And if someone tries to ask you to take that pin off, call me.
I love it. I love it.
Natasha's cognitive filter will go away again, and she,
Yeah.
and she will let them know how she feels about that for sure.
Yeah.
And it should be a conversation starter. It should, if somebody asks you,
it serves a purpose. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I can't imagine finding out that after being a victim of such a horrific violent assault that it had happened before to another nurse. I mean, that it's just like adding insult to the injury. And I wanted to name him. I don't think that we should just say him or the person that assaulted you. It's public record, right? It's public record. Yes.
His name
so
was
please.
Like on every. Yeah. Okay.
I think I read that it's Bruce Randy Van Horlick.
Bruce Randy Van Horlick.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is the name of the person that did this to you.
That is the name.
And so the trial ultimately the criminal trial ultimately ended up spanning about 1.5 years, and it overlapped with COVID. And you testified in the trial. In fact, you were on the stand for many, many hours. And you wrote in the book that while you were on the stand, there was one question about a broken nose that they asked you that really threw you off. You weren't expecting that. Can you tell us about that?
Here we're on trial because a woman, a nurse, has been severely assaulted in her workplace. Just let's make that clear. And you have an aggressive lawyer representing his client that is, there is no empathy at all shown. And that was his job, But you could tell there was tension between me and between the team, the lawyer's team. But anyway, as he kept on with his questions, one question was, okay, it's been 10 months since the incident. How many medical appointments did you have? Immediately, in 10 months, I said 272. How do you know that? I said, well, I counted them last night. Well, and as the question progressed, so it was like, isn't it true that your nose was broken while you were in a relationship in the past?
Because you had been a victim of domestic violence, pretty bad, actually, in your past. 10 years.
Yeah, from the age of 16 to 26. So a long, long time ago, but still, right? So I thought, where's he going with this and what's his point? But I knew what his point was. His point was, look, you've been beaten to death by your ex-boyfriend. And look at here now, like you probably deserve it this time again, because here it is. Like, this is what I was picturing was going to be the next question.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just responded like, yes. And I stayed there. But remember, management was there, healthcare, all my staff was there witnessing that.
That's hard.
I didn't want them to know I had suffered before.
Right. I mean, they were exposing essentially your private past information as being a victim of something completely separate. Yeah, it's the ultimate
as if it's my fault
victim blaming.
Right, victim blaming. And that I was not going to tolerate.
Good for you,
I love your strength.
You should not. That is absolutely absurd. That one event has nothing to do with the other event. And
right.
I would have completely felt just how you felt. That's sad.
I'm
sorry that happened to you. I really am.
Well, thank you for understanding the way my thought process was happening at that time,
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And who's on trial here? It's not, you're not on trial.
It's victim blaming. That's what it is. Yeah.
The whole thing, I felt I was on trial. Really, it was just It was
as
horrible.
if she wanted to get beat up so that she could fix a prior nose injury. I mean, she set it up like
Right.
it doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. The line of questioning, that's awful. It's embarrassing, is what it is.
But I'm not sure a woman would have asked that. I don't know.
It sounds like he just got down and dirty and just awful, trying to just dig up
aggressive.
anything.
He wasn't aggressive. He was good. And if I'd ever commit a crime, well, he's probably the one I'd want to go get to defend me.
No empathy. So during COVID, like during the trial, did you have to do a lot of these things via video or via phone, or how often were you able to be there in person?
No, I got people were driving me, either my husband or someone else, and dropping me off at the court.
Okay.
The only thing is that one of the courts, my husband couldn't go. So he asked the sheriffs, could you make sure you escort her to the courtroom and escort her back because of the danger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, well, we will. And for some reason, I left the court. There was no sheriff there. And guess who I took the elevator with?
No, you didn't. He was in the elevator with you?
With the two lawyers and him. RLS court together.
Gosh.
Like, I couldn't wait till, we hit. And I thought, is this my brain? Like, what am I thinking?
Oh, my God. I don't think that was in the book. Wow.
No, it wasn't in the book. No. Like, the book is just an overview. There's so much more details.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine what your heart felt like in that moment.
I couldn't believe, why did I not wait for the next elevator? Like, what was I rushing to? Well, I wanted to get out of court, but anyways.
I'm sorry. That's terrible. So, just to keep adding a little insult to injury, this monster had the audacity to plead not guilty, even though this was a witnessed event by multiple people, and his attorneys ended up using a legal defense, which is called non-insane automatism. I don't know if it's automatism or matism. And so basically this suggests that the defendant's actions were involuntary, that they're not conscious of their actions, that it's basically due to a medical or an external factor rather than a psych reason. So things like hypoglycemia, concussion, hypnotic trance, something like that. And if the defense can successfully argue this non-insane automatism, it acts as a complete excuse, a complete defense, absolving the defendant of any criminal liability. It must have been so hard for you to sit there and see him trying to excuse and deny his actions.
Well, I knew it couldn't be true because after he assaulted me and everything, and he was in my clinical office his office, he said, let me go back and just apologize. So obviously
that'll make it all better.
Yeah, it'll make, and he just said, I don't think it's the right timing right now.
You think? Oh my God.
I mean, then all nurses should be able to just whack people and hit people because we're hypoglycemic all the time.
True.
We don't get to take, right? We don't get to take meal breaks. I guess we have.
That's funny. We should. Can we use that?
Let me call the Canadian Nursing Association there. See if,
right? I mean, seriously, the stuff that they can come up with. So in the end, he did serve some prison time, but it was only, and I say only 6 months. He should have gotten a lot longer than that.
No, but he did. Yeah, he did get 6 months. But
6 months is all he served, right? Okay, go ahead.
That's
what
he served.
Okay.
But now the criminal law, where it comes to nurses, has been amended. So now, if someone assaults a nurse or healthcare worker or whatever, it's going to be the same consequences as if you assault a police. Can you imagine? So instead of 6 months, like today, he might have got 5 years with the new law that's now amended. So this is really good. Like this was so encouraging to me that the law finally recognized
that was one of the good things that came out of this, right? Is they put healthcare workers on par with law enforcement for the punishments that go along with this, the consequences. And that's amazing that you were able to accomplish that.
And we serve our community just like law enforcement, just like teachers. Just, you know, I feel like a lot of us are all in the same shoes, you know? It doesn't matter, our jobs are slightly different, but there's a lot of
it interconnects somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. He said something pretty horrific to you in the courtroom that day, which is awful. It was very awful to even hear that. But basically, he said that you were fortunate that he didn't kill you that day. Almost like you should be lucky that, or thankful that you made it and you're at least still here. When you heard that, what was your initial reaction to hearing him say something like that?
I know this may seem a little odd, but
no, it won't.
I'm sure that assault that I suffered, he was there to kill me. This is the whole point. And when he confirmed that, like when he confirmed that, it was like, yeah, I knew he was there to kill me. And I'm just lucky I'm alive.
And had somebody not stepped in the room finally, who knows? Like,
no, I wouldn't be here. I couldn't take too much there. I was in and out of consciousness, you know, and ladies, between us, like my spirit left my body. I saw what was going on, and then it came back and detached again and in and out of consciousness. I mean, this is an experience that I've never had in my life, and I don't know how to describe it to people.
Yeah.
It's a dissociation, a grave dissociation, I would say. I don't know.
The Canadian Federation of Nurses Union issued a very public national statement commending the guilty verdict. And they didn't stop there. They were actively involved in getting the new criminal code amended, and there were nationwide like demonstrations, because your case was really kind of groundbreaking. There had never been one on that level for a healthcare worker, and with a guilty verdict and all of that. That must have felt good to at least have the support of the union.
Oh my gosh, to have that support and to know inside of me what they were trying to achieve and what, you know, I was following this. Like, if they could achieve change on the law, you know, even before my trial finished, like this would like benefited me at that moment. And I was praying that it would come through, but it didn't. But it's okay because it's coming through for everybody else now. So now, you know, we know our worth.
Yeah.
But do we really know our worth? After COVID and after everything and our working conditions, do we know our worth? It's time.
Yeah, it's beyond time.
Beyond time.
And healthcare workers nurses need to start being treated like we are worthy. And
well, like we're worthy, like we're professionals, like we are.
Like we're humans, like we're a human being instead of a robot. That's
right.
That's
and
how
when we're assaulted, we are victims of an assault. It is not part of the job.
So not part of the job. Like nothing, no. Okay, let me get this clear for everybody. Violence is not part of the job. Okay. Physical assault is not part of the job. Harassing is not part of the job. Bullying is not part of the job. all these stuff is not part of the job. So it needs to stop, or we're going to take action.
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
love it. You're so empowering. I love it.
I know.
No,
I'm
sometimes I get so passionate.
so
It's-
proud
That's
of
good.
you. Like, really. I mean, I know I've only met you, but I'm really so proud of you. Your resilience and your strength is absolutely amazing. What would you like to see nurses do, like, across the world globally? Like, what do you think nurses need to do? More of standing up for themselves? Like, how can you see more changes happening, and so that we can get past this code of silence, this feeling like we can't talk because we're afraid we'll get fired, or we'll get in trouble with our manager, or I shouldn't report it because somebody told me not to. What would your advice be to nurses?
Well, first of all, I don't know how it is in the United States, if you're pro-union or if you're not. There's two schools of thoughts on that. And
Same here.
throughout,
There in the
Yeah.
US, there's two schools of thought. I am very, very pro-union.
and I'm very, very pro-union. How about you, Jessica?
Yes, I am. I've never been under one, but I think everything that I've learned about being in an organization that has a union, I've not heard anything bad. It sounds amazing. I wish that my workplace had been that way. But so pro-union, yes, to answer your question.
Well, I'll give you an example. So I looked at one of our provinces here in Canada, and what they did, they just come out with a code maroon. It's something like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Code maroon.
Okay, for those that
Looks like
can't
an-
see, it's just a picture, a little symbol of an alarm
Like
with
yeah,
a
an alarm
maroon
bell,
background.
something.
So what the nurses are saying with this this code maroon, is that they are overwhelmed. The staffing ratios are unacceptable. They need help and they need support.
So they
Okay.
can call a code maroon.
And this is code maroon. And isn't this what we're into today? Like,
Yeah.
staff, all this, it could be implemented across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they wear it on their kind of
Oh, I love it. Is
Yeah.
this something they can call overhead? Like you would call a code silver, code gray, code white?
No, this code is just to let, I guess, politicians know, and the public and management, and it's like a quiet movement. Like, we're sick of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the code maroon could be accepted all across Canada. The purple pin could be accepted as no more violence.
I love
And
it.
from there, I've been looking at what's going on around the world a little bit with nurses, but they are starting demonstrations. So you can march, you can demonstrate, you can
rally,
do things like that. You can rally, you can do all those things that are legal and no one can stop you. And this sends a message to the government, and the union with that information can go and push for changes. Like, usually the people that are part of the union, they're also our voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the union are so beneficial because they will protect your salary. Like, they'll protect what's happening at work. Always have protection without having to go hire a lawyer. Like, this is free. Not just that, throughout my career, when I had union jobs, they paid for my whole Bachelor Science of Nursing course by course.
The union
awesome.
did?
The union. What else?
That's amazing.
Do you know what else they did? They sent me to Amsterdam on a psychiatric conference. I was working in a nursing home.
Damn, I want to be part of that union.
I know, right?
Okay,
that's amazing.
Union has many, many benefits that people don't know. And if I could break it down the nursing layer is so complicated here in New Brunswick and in Canada because you have so many organizations to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the nurses I know don't even read their collective agreement. This is the
Yeah,
first thing I do
that's
when I take a
same
job.
here,
I lay down
unfortunately.
in my bed, and it's like, that's my sleeping material till I'm done the collective agreement and highlight the
Yeah,
importance of it. Because don't you want to know your rights as an employee?
yeah, yeah,
Right?
You would
This
think.
is important.
it is.
But people need someone here to kind of gather all that information to break it down for the nurse easily so they can understand, where do I go for this? What happens with this? What do I do? And there's kind of no one to
Yeah.
guide them in that huge, process.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, in addition to the criminal trial, you are such a badass that you sued him civilly. And eventually you were awarded $1.3 million,
Hey guys,
which is amazing. But,
Good.
unfortunately, you probably won't actually see that money, but it's still a groundbreaking case because, again, hasn't really had a precedent with healthcare workers. And now, in addition to the criminal and civil lawsuit, you're now in the process of doing a human rights lawsuit.
well,
So
first of all, I was
amazing.
fired, so we went the grievance.
Yes,
I
with
won,
the
and I
union.
got a sum of money for that.
Oh,
And
good.
then next thing, well, it wasn't enough for me because other things came out during the grievance. So now we really, really do need to proceed to human rights. But what I want to say about the 1.3 million, because I'm on workman's compensation, they're going to want all my salaries that they pay me back, all my treatments they paid. So I'd say about like 1.1 million approximately goes to WorkSafe. Let's say that the man had 1.3 million. 1.1 goes to WorkSafe, and I get 200. So
Mhm.
I was never going to be a millionaire, even if
Right.
the man had
Yeah.
millions and millions and millions. Like, it's not the way it works. Like, people thought I was a millionaire. It's just so embarrassing.
You
Yeah.
deserve to be a millionaire after what you went through. I mean,
You
seriously,
do.
that's the absolute least thing that could be awarded to you after having to go through all of this. It would be to see justice, to see him pay for what he did, and at a minimum, I mean, I would, if you actually saw those dollars, I'd be proud because he deserves to give you every cent, every penny that he has. He should
Well,
pay.
he has assets. So the next step is to go garnish his assets. Those things belong to
Good.
me now. It's obvious.
I
And
love it.
if there's land, I love land. It always goes up in price.
Get it.
I love it.
Get it, girl.
Get it, girl. Seriously. I mean, get it. And that's what I think. In synopsis, nurses, don't be scared to report this. Don't let them talk you into not filing a police report, or it's not that bad. You don't need to go to the ER. Hold your ground and do the things that are right. Fight it, do it. Don't let them scare you. Don't let these
And you
scare
know what?
tactics
In
work.
Canada, the path has been blazed for you. Nurses,
Because
the
of
path.
you. I am in awe
blazed.
of
So
your
go.
fight. You have been relentless despite all of the lingering injuries, and you have gone down every possible avenue to fight this and to hold not only him, but the system accountable. And I am in awe
Absolutely.
of you. You should be so proud of yourself because we are proud of you.
That's
Thank you.
one thing he didn't take from you. He didn't take that away from you. You still got that fight. That's amazing. Kudos to you. You are a role model, honestly, for
Yes.
nurses and healthcare workers everywhere.
You
Believe
are.
that because it's true. Yeah.
Thank
Natasha,
you.
where can people find your book, Unsure?
Unsure is now on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So they can purchase it on Amazon. It just recently come out on audiobook form.
On Audible too.
Yeah, Audible to iTunes.
Okay.
iTunes.
We're going to put links in the description of this podcast for anyone that wants to check it out.
If you want to find Natasha's book,
it'll be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, but
I've got mine all highlighted. Can you see
I
all the highlights in my book?
There. Look at her painting in the back.
Yes, and you have an amazing story with the cover, the artwork on the cover of your book, and that painting behind you. Tell everyone about that, because it's kind of crazy and beautiful.
So I don't know, it must have been a year in, and I thought, it's not possible that I'm not gonna thrive through this. So let's just get Jeanette Melanson, or a local artist that I had bought art from her before, come to my house and kind of tell her all my journey, my difficult journey, where I was heading and what was this mean. And I said, I just want a painting that represents my journey. It has to be a lot of colorful colors. It has to have butterflies too. It has to be big. So I can see it and remind every time I come in my house, I have to see it. So
it's a beautiful.
She was
beautiful
there like
picture.
about 2 hours, and she told me, Natasha, like, I'm gonna have to speak with my angels. And about 2.5 years later, she Facebooked me and she said, like, the collection's ready. And I thought, like, what does she mean?
You're like what collection?
Yeah, I didn't order full collection, man. Like, I just wanted like one painting. But anyway, once I read up on the collection, I knew that the collection was for other women that had been through similar paths. And had, it was just kind of a way to come together, provide solace, feel like we're not alone in all of this. But can you believe it? You ask for one painting and she comes with a whole collection after.
It's amazing. And it's so beautiful. It really is a beautiful piece of art there.
To me, I see a nurse.
On the cover.
Because for me.
She's got the messy bun.
Well, I always wore the bun.
Me too.
You too?
Yeah, always messy bun. Yep.
So to me, that is a nurse, because it could be, if you look at it closer, it could be the hat too, replacing the messy bun, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
And then the nurse is tired, she needs to put her knee up and kind of have a breath. But as you see, the big yellow kind of
ray of light, almost like.
Yeah, well, that is my weapon. That is my courage and other people's courage.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah, and we're going to put a link also in the description of this podcast to that artist. What is her name again?
Jeanette Melanson.
Okay.
Jeanette Melanson.
God, it sounds so fancy.
Her website, like, I just copied her website in the
in
the book in case people wanted to see what the other pieces look like.
Yeah.
Beautiful job that she did capturing that.
I think so too.
That picture. Yeah.
We want to thank you, Natasha, for your bravery and your persistence in fighting this and trusting us to tell your story, and for putting it into words, so it's documented here. I really recommend everybody get a copy of this, Unsure, by Natasha Poirier. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yes,
you did.
Right? Good.
I think you did. Yeah.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure
so
meeting
impressed.
you.
Well, look, it was a pleasure meeting both of you. I didn't even know you existed. So like I said, thank you so much.
Because I heard about you when your book came out very recently. I got to tell you guys, I tried to find you every which possible way and hit nothing but dead end after dead end. Every email was returned, all the social, like, nothing worked. And I was ready to give up. And finally got a hold of you. So I'm so glad that we did.
No one would have had would have put that effort to find me. Only a nurse. Only
That's
a
right.
nurse.
That's right. We're persistent little things.
Yes, we are.
That's right.
Don't ever underestimate the power of a nurse or nurses together.
That's
I
right.
love that. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome back anytime.
Hey, anytime you want to. Well, now you can track me down easily.
Yes.
And hopefully we can do this again sometime. Really enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun, guys.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Until
right.
next time on the next Nurses Uncorked.